Hello, I'm John Grom, and welcome to our 271st Right and Left Discussion Forum. We hold our televised discussions twice monthly to demonstrate the value of civil, productive, open-minded political dialogue. Today, we will depart from our normal political discussion and talk about Wadsworth. We've all lived there at one time or another, and we all like it, and we all have our own memories. So we'll ask people how to discuss how it's changed and were the changes for the better. Today's discussion begins with Susan Hanlon, retired Dean of the College of Business at the University of Akron. Then Patty Haskins, retired math teacher at Wadsworth High School. Then Mike Reese of Howard Hanna Real Estate. And then Bryan Laubaugh, president of R&B Financial Services. Susan, tell us about your experience with the city of Wadsworth and what it has meant to you.
Sure. So I am not from Wadsworth. I grew up outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Go Steelers! And we moved to Wadsworth in 1981 and just moved away from Wadsworth 2 months ago, back to Pennsylvania. And we loved Wadsworth. We raised our daughter there, and we owned, I think, when we last count, something like 6 houses in Wadsworth. We moved around a lot. We were the last one for over 30 years. And I was on council twice, and I was on the library board and was involved with the community. I loved it, and I think it's a great place. In fact, my sister-in-law, who lives outside of Philadelphia, she always called it the other world because she said it was just so much like what things used to be like. Now, having said that, Wadsworth is a very nice, safe, inexpensive, really, relatively speaking, especially compared to, Eastern Pennsylvania, which is where we are now. But I think the biggest threat to Wadsworth is almost exactly that. It is very nice. I mean, they always say, what's that saying? Good is the enemy of great, So things are good, and some people might say they're great, but what I experience, and it's probably not unique to Wadsworth, it's a lot of small towns, is this fighting change and people just wanting things to stay exactly the same. And I think many times they don't understand the economic consequences of that. I mean, you have to have growth, you have to have change, or you're not going to be able to afford to live in Wadsworth. You can't just say, I was the last one in and close the door. You have to have change, and you have to trust. One thing about Wadsworth that I know firsthand is we have an unbelievable committed and talented group of people that work for the city of Wadsworth, and they're just outstanding. And they need, the chance to do their job. And I guess I'm coming at this from my experience on city council quite a bit. So I think, we need to be careful that, yeah, it's great. It's a great place to live, but we have to have change, and we have to not be afraid to fail. Like, we have to be willing to try something that might not work. I mean, when you think about, we have our own water, we have our own electricity, we have our own cable, we have our own library. We're not even, I mean, we're part of the Medina County. We're part of Medina County, but we're not part of the Medina County District Library. We are our own separate library. So we've always been very independent and innovative. And we have to fight the urge that I have seen in Wadsworth to not be like that anymore. So I'll stop there.
Okay, Patty, what are your thoughts?
My first recollection of Wadsworth, I was born and raised in next neighboring Barberton, was from my grandmother, who lived right next door to us. And Grandma used to talk about Wadsworth all the time because when she was a young girl, she worked at the match factory. And during World War I, there were the match ladies that worked there because the boys were all overseas fighting. And Grandma had many stories about it and always loved the town. And I first moved to Wadsworth for my first job teaching in the Wadsworth School District at the middle school. And I taught 7th and 8th grade math there. And I remember Grandma was so excited that I was moving to Wadsworth because she loved the town so much. Interestingly enough, this was back in 73. The town was really quite different when I moved here. The North End did not exist as we now know it. We didn't have all the huge housing developments out and around. We didn't have Giant Eagle and the big shopping, and Kohl's and all of those places located around here. I still remember I was moving into my first apartment on 3rd Street and asked some neighbors where to go to get a sandwich for lunch. And there was no McDonald's. There was no Burger King. There was no Subway. None of these places existed. And the only place to go get a sandwich was, they told me, which was really good, was Dress Brothers, which was up on the corner of on 94 there. And so we went there. And of course, then we saw all of that change. I mean, Bueller's moved in and the McDonald's moved in. And then, they moved on from that. All that the Walmart Plaza was added over the years. One of the things I found the most charming, though, about Wadsworth was even now, even with all of the growth that we've had, I think that we have that small town feel. And we form a community here. One of my biggest, fondest memories was when my kids were little, was taking them to the Blue Tip Parade. And that was always so much fun. And the neighbors and I would all go down together and we'd all sit in the same spot. And, the kids loved it. And, how many years later now, those Blue Tip Parades are still going on. There's still a Blue Tip Festival. And, it's one of the largest parades in the state. And it's well attended. One of the things they don't do anymore is they don't have the Miss Wadsworth pageant. Remember, they used to have a Miss Wadsworth pageant every year, and all of the young ladies that were seniors basically would try to be candidates for it. So it was really kind of a neat activity. Susan mentioned change. Yeah, we see the change, and change has to be made. But the one thing we do want to keep, though, is that community spirit that we have. And Wadsworth does have community spirit. I mean, never so much as when we won state basketball championships or went to states, and to see the amount of the crowd. I remember going to even the boys' games, going down to Columbus for state championship games. And the Wadsworth crowd would fill up over half of the stadium. And then the sections that represented schools from elsewhere in Ohio didn't come close to filling the seats. And that's because of how much the people in this town support their football teams and basketball teams and whatnot, and just support anyone from this community. And that's something that you can't buy in a town.
Mike, you're kind of a newcomer. Well, you've been in and out of Wadsworth. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've been here. Well, I was born here, and I moved around a lot. My parents were divorced when I was pretty young, so we moved that quite around a bit. But I keep coming back. I've been here, living here, and then moving. Then, so over the years, I've been here quite a bit. But I have been here steadily since my kids were born. When we moved out in 2008, 2009, when the market crashed. We sold our house, we rearranged our lives. My wife went to law school, And then we ended up coming back when we had our kids because we wanted them to go to a good school. And I knew that Wadsworth was, was a nice community from living here. The schools were great. So this is where we decided we wanted to raise our family. So we've been here ever since. I have my son who's just graduated last year, who started college this year. He's been going here his whole life. My daughter, she's in high school. She's a junior this year. So, we've been here quite a while. We had a really, really, really great experience here. The schools have been wonderful. And Patty mentioned, like, we love going to like all the football games and stuff. My son was in marching band, so we would go to all the home games and watch him. And, there is a really great community spirit here in Wadsworth, which is one thing that I really appreciate. One of the things I've made a point to do when we came back was to volunteer for as many things as I could, because I really wanted to be a part of the community. It's given us so much, so it's like we want to give back. So, I've done, you name it. I've been involved with the First Fridays, with Main Street, helping on the Planning Commission, and one of the organizers. And I was the volunteer coordinator for the Balloons Over Wadsworth, which we brought back. It's been a really great success. Awesome to see so many people come to that event, not just from Wadsworth, from the surrounding communities. It's become, I think we had something like 8,000 people there. So really awesome to see that, people in the community have stepped up to keep these things going. Blue Tip Festival, I've been going that my whole life, and some of my best memories as a kid were going to the carnival and the parade and stuff. It's been really amazing years living here. So it is. We have a really great small town community feel. People get involved. I mean, you see on the First Fridays how many people will come downtown, and bring life to the downtown area, which, I gotta say, when I was a kid, I did not see that, so downtown was small, quiet. They've really brought people in to, you know, help all the businesses downtown, and so that the stores can thrive, restaurants can thrive, and people in this community really do know how to step up, I think, and it's one of my favorite parts about it. And I'm running for city council this year. Trying to get involved more. Um, it's just been a really, really nice time living here, and I'll probably live here for some time, and my kids will probably live here for some time.
Bryan, can you hear us now?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect.
Fire away.
Yes, I'm sorry for that technical issue. I had to replace my system, and for some reason the speaker wasn't just working right, but I got it working. So I put my backdrop in there. I think Wadsworth has got something going. There's a lot of special sauce here. I've lived in a lot of different places. My dad was in the military. He retired. He was born and raised in Akron. He decided to retire in southern New Jersey, just across the river from Philadelphia. We lived in a nice little town. It really didn't have a real town feeling. It was more of a county feeling. You lived in Gloucester County. Coming here 40 some years ago, having married Robin, I think it's just a very welcoming, loving community if you get involved. Are there things that can be improved? Certainly, in any town. But if you compare it, if you've lived anywhere else, it's different. There's a good spirit about Wadsworth. I couldn't agree more with everybody and everything that they've said. We have a lot of good things going for us. Obviously, there has to be growth. If you're not growing, you're dying. I mean, people have written, books on it. And some would say, well, back in the day before the highway came this way, well, that's just the price of growth and just the way things work. I mean, just think if we didn't have 3 exits off the highway, we would be stuck in the middle of nowhere. And you can just travel around towns and see what the aspect of transportation does to a community. And I think they've managed it very well. I have to be careful. I don't want to speak ill of the administration. Given, but I think I would echo Susan's comments. You know, in today's environment, it's very hard to attract high caliber people. And what's been good is that organically, Wadsworth has been able to grow people within their organization to step in and become the leaders of those departments. And I think that's one thing that's different. And the city works very hard to grow those people. And it's easy to armchair quarterback. It's easy to take pot shots at people. It's easy to get on Facebook and complain about a pothole or your lights out. But I'll tell you, we have so much to be grateful for. I mean, those are like first world problems that we complain about. And I get a little tired of just the nitpicking sometimes that goes on. If people would just say, oh my gosh, look at what we have in Wadsworth. Look at the many things that we do. I mean, you go to that football stadium on Friday night, it's packed. It's packed with people. Try to get a hot chocolate. You're going to stand in line for 25 minutes. I mean, people love coming out. There's a real sense of community. And obviously there are things that can be improved. You look at our parks, things that people want to move here for, parks, our schools. I mean, my kids, they were so prepared for college. I mean, they graduated from high school and most of them tested out of a lot of the general classes in math and science and all that kind of stuff. So I have no argument with our schools. They're doing a great job. They probably could work on the traffic at the high school in the morning when I'm coming to Rotary, but you know, those are just little things. So it's been a great experience. Get involved. I mean, I echo what Micah said and Patty, get involved in something, you know, Rotary, Lions, Main Street, Salvation Army. There's so many areas that you can get involved with and become part of the community. And that's what I see when people start complaining and you look and you say, you know, what have you done? Where have you invested your time and your talent to make Wadsworth a better place? And if you do that, you really get a sense of how important and how different and how special Wadsworth is. So,
Well,
You know, Wadsworth, I'm sorry, John.
no, I was just going to fill in the last 2 minutes here, but go ahead.
You know, I can't say enough about, and Bryan brought this up and Susan did, is what our city government does. If you look at neighboring communities, they don't have their own electric system. They don't have their own cable. Most of them don't even pick up their own sanitation now. This city provides all of those services and at a cheaper cost than neighboring communities. I mean, I hear people complain about bills, but you know, hey, move and find out what bills can be. And the accountability and the efficiency of those services is beyond reproach. I mean, I looked at, there's a neighboring community that's having a great deal of difficulty with their electric power and it going off so often and not being able to get it fixed. Hey, we don't have that problem. If there is an outage, it gets fixed immediately because it's our people that are doing that. And, you know, that's something that you just can't buy. It's there in this city and it makes it run well.
Well, Brenda and I moved to Wadsworth and lived there for 50 years. We came from Cuyahoga Falls, which was a town of about 50,000, and moved to Wadsworth when it was about 12 or 14,000 in the early 60s. And my first thought was, my God, what have we done? The town was, I got used to the idea that it's really a small town. That most of the businesses were family owned. When I think about all of the there was not a chain retailer in Wadsworth in 1963. the downtown. Oh, I guess I could start naming all of the businesses that were family owned downtown. Ritzmond's were there twice, on the south side of the square and then on the north side of the square. But the all of the other Tubasings and DH&L, all these, and that was hard to get used to with no chains. And then, but the time things started to change, the north end where Bueller's is was a nursery, Bob's Nursery. And I was really disturbed when we moved retailing to the north side of the highway. It really bothered me, and I never did get used to it. I wasn't crazy about the idea of Walmart and all the hamburger joints. I learned to like it the way it was. And I agree with Bryan, you got to grow or you die. So that was my experience. My kids went to Wadsworth High, and it was a wonderful school system. They went to college and had good experiences. My daughter wound up with a master's degree from Stanford, and my son Adam is teaching school in Ellett. He's a band director at Ellett High School. But it was a great experience. We moved out of there about 10 years ago. We live in Akron now, for a variety of reasons. But I can't tell you how grateful I am that we spent all of our children's growing up years in Wadsworth. So that was my comment.
Nice.
The school district has played a big part of my life. I started teaching in the old Central, and I mean the old Central. It didn't look anything like what it looks like now.
Yeah.
Not all of the additions had even been added on. And I was in the upstairs corner, the second floor corner in the back, and there was a door out of the back of my room, and there were stairs that went down to the ground. That was the fire escape. And when I first started here, when we had a fire drill out of that room, I had to walk down, take the kids and walk them down these metal stairs. You could never do that anymore because it was so unsafe. They finally blocked it off. But it was, and the room was huge. It's been chopped up now and everything. They've changed all the space. And of course, the building is not going to be a school anymore. But I had 42 to 45 kids per class, which any teacher now will know that is unbelievable. But, it was workable. And the only thing I'd like to think the reason it was workable was the fact that we had such good kids here in town. Not all of them. I had quite a few personalities.
Right.
And that's the way I like to refer to them. But I mean, I did have really good kids, and I found that the staff that I worked with and the education that they provided to the kids over all the years was beyond comparison. They were just great. And we used to hear all the time that people moved here just because the schools were so good.
Yeah.
And they still are. And that's, another factor in this town that makes it one of the best in the area.
Yeah. Well, our time is up, and I want to thank you all very much for all of your memories. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.